everyone, to another season of Goal Intentions. Oh my goodness, it's been a few months, and I really needed to spend some time to reflect and appreciate all that I have. There was just a phase when I felt a little bit cornered and stuck. So I just needed to find the time in my mind to relax a bit, but also to really think about the things that are important and to prioritize as I move into the new year. Back in October, it was spectacular because I was wondering what else can I do with goal intentions, and I hosted a brunch. Oh my goodness, it was so remarkable. I had a powerful group of women join me in my backyard, and we just talked about, what we want to set for ourselves moving forward, whether it's relationships, travel, job, just setting time to go to the spa, simple things that would allow for us to really broaden how we uh, consider self care and making sure that we are at the forefront in all that we do, because it's so easy for us to do for everyone else, but oftentimes we neglect ourselves. So here we are, a successful brunch, and now we're in 2022, and I'm excited to really have a discussion today with my longtime friend. And I tell you, it's just wonderful how, I'm reaching out to folks that I've had some form of relationship with, and particularly back in high school. We've shared something in common, or we may be passerbyers in the hallway, whatever it is. And I'm reaching out to them, and I'm getting such really good feedback and responses. And more importantly, yes, yes, of course, I will come on and talk with you. So today, my friend, longtime friend, Gary
hmm
Phillip, is with me. And welcome, Gary. How are you?
Hello, thank you, Shamira. Thank you so much for having me. First off, want to apologize for having to reschedule for our last scheduled session, but I'm here. I'm in a hotel at the moment, as you probably could tell, because I'm on the road again. But I wasn't gonna miss this for the world, and for you, I even found some props. I ran around the hotel, got some plants and some African art, some books. So hopefully, I gave it a good go, and it looks great.
Oh my good. You do look great. The backdrop is wonderful. The sun that's actually coming in on you is a really good sign.
I was trying to avoid it, but I can't. So hopefully you have to deal with it for the segment.
No, I actually appreciate it. I would keep my windows open just so that I can have that ray come through. To me, it's a sign, a sign of blessing, a sign of newness, a new,
Yeah.
just starting off the day, and just, it's like, okay, God or the spiritual master is saying, you're doing something good with your life, and I want you to appreciate and bask in it. And that's what
I
I see for you right now.
I think you're right. I'm gonna embrace that. All that you said, that's it. I'm gonna take that in today.
Wonderful. So, you know, longtime friend, I know coming on here like each time with another longtime friend. It's like, what is that? Where you know all these people? So we met at Wingate
We did high school.
in high school.
Yeah.
And
Right.
to some folks' surprise, they'll say, my gosh, Wingate got a lot of folks that like everybody went to Wingate. Well, we had a nice concentration of folks, particularly of Caribbean background, who
hmm
went to Wingate. Didn't quite know it at the time, but now it's more coming out. People are really appreciative of their heritage, and their nationality. So, what is your background, your heritage exactly? Is your family from Brooklyn? Are
Yes.
you from
Yes.
Brooklyn?
So I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. I have a Caribbean American heritage. My mother is from St. Vincent. Father's from Grenada, but raised in Trinidad. So a
Wow.
mashup of things. But yeah, I've been to the Caribbean one or two times. Visited St. Vincent with family. But yes, Caribbean American.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know that it was St. Vincent, or
Yeah.
even Grenada.
Yeah.
Trinidad.
Yeah. So
I did not know that. Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
G- See, every time we come out here, I get to find something out new about a
Learning
person.
something new. Yeah.
That is wonderful. And you've gone through junior high school, and when you transitioned to high school, how
Mhm.
was that first experience for you?
It was interesting because leaving junior high school, Winthrop Junior High, not too far from Winthrop Junior High School, not too far from Wingate. It was difficult. I was applying to all these different high schools. I knew that that was a pivotal moment in our lives where that was going to probably dictate who would we become based on our friends, based on education, based on networking, and just life, what it throws at you during those 4 years.
Mhm.
So I was looking at a bunch of Catholic schools, Bishop Lachlan, Bishop Ford. My two sisters went to Catholic schools their entire lives. My sister transferred to Wingate for 1 year, her senior year, because of tuition increases. But for the most part, I'm the boy. My parents said, listen, he could toughen it up. He can do it in public schools. Um, but at that time, Brooklyn was kind of rough and Wingate was kind of rough. And they were trying to transition me and prepare me for college and prepare me for the real world. And they were going to put me into a private school at that time. And I said, no,
Mhm.
if I'm going to make it in real life, I need to be in real life scenarios. I need to be amongst my peers. I need to be amongst other Caribbean Americans. Um, and I begged them. I said, I want to go to Wingate High School. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to do well. I'm going to be super active in anything and everything that's going to make me successful. And Wingate's where it was, and it worked out really well.
Wow, I'd agree, and you're right. It was a really rough time, particularly
Mhm.
around turfs.
Yeah,
There was this whole situation, particularly was us Tilden, Wingate, Tilden, South
yeah,
Shore.
yep.
There was always some beef, you know, and we were always
There was.
crossing over. I don't know why we would be on Tilden. I really
Yeah,
don't.
yeah.
No, in retrospect, many of us, I'm sure, lived in the area and had to cross over in those
Hmm.
areas, but because
Hmm.
there was just these line of demarcations that didn't seem sensible, and quite frankly, it still exists today.
Hmm.
But in those times, it was like, okay, how can this school become better? And I saw that Dr. Organishak, he passed on,
Yeah.
but he came in and did like wonders. But then
Yes.
also the educators that
Yes.
were hired to really turn things around. And I remember my counselor, Miss Dorney,
Hmm.
and Miss Abramowitz, Mr. Abramowitz, they
Mr.
worked as
Brahmas. Yeah.
a team.
Yeah.
Miss Barada, they all
Oh,
worked as a team.
you're taking me back. You're taking me back. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll let you continue. I'll jump in right after. Yeah.
No, it's the truth. They all, and although, we were in silos, if you will, because the school was compartmentalized, but not compartmentalized in the way that it is today. Today,
Right.
it's literally four different schools or
Broken
so.
up. Yep. Yep.
We had schools, but it was still Wingate. So we had
Yes.
the School of Science, we had the School of Business, we had the School of Law. There were just,
Aviation as well.
and I didn't know there was an
Yeah.
aviation.
That's what I initially went for. Long story, but yeah.
So, with that in mind, how did that impact you? Because I find this topic to be a bit important for high schoolers, particularly now.
Yes.
This is a season where they've done regents and they're getting ready towards June, where they have to
Hmm.
decide what their next steps are going to be.
Hmm.
How was that experience when working with the school staff to get you inspired and
Yeah.
ignited?
Yeah. So obviously there's the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. It's not just your parents and your aunts and your uncles and cousins and neighbors. It's everyone in your school. It's those teachers, professors, those guidance counselors. You named a few of them, but one of the biggest ones was Miss Barada, Miss Rinaldi. I mean, when I tell you that they instilled so much confidence in myself and some of our peers, when you hear each and every day that you're great and you're destined for success, it changes who you are because number one, it's one thing to hear from your parents, but you're hearing it from other adults who have lived and become successful themselves. And when they're putting that energy on you, I think it changes how you carry yourself. You're walking through the halls with your head up. You're going to a classroom knowing that no matter what, you're going to be successful. And we had that from a lot of people, a lot of the faculty in that building, and that extends to coaches, Mr. Goldstein, Hallisey. I mean, like I said earlier, I joined everything I could. I was captain of the bowling team. I was captain of the baseball team. I was in drama. I did AV for a lot of the plays. What else? I did steel pan. I think it was Natasha that got me to join. But that was probably one of the most probably proud things that I did throughout those 4 years was to learn how to play steel pan.
Hmm.
I remember performing in the auditorium for an assembly, and I'm up there just killing it, and I'm seeing everyone looking like, oh my God, I didn't even know there was steel pan. But
Right.
that was a moment for me where I got to kind of feel like I was touching base with my culture. Um, but yeah, overall, it really does take a village and a village of teachers and professors to help students get to that next level.
Oh, you are so right about it. You listed things that I even forgot, was a program at Wingate, Steel Pan. Now that I think about it, yes, there was a really heavy presence of
Yeah.
Steel Pan, but the arts was one of the most things that they wanted to make sure that we all were a part of. And
Yes.
it seemed to be an anomaly at the time because those programs were only at specialized high schools.
Hmm.
And we managed to get a flavor of everything. I mean, the mock
Yes.
trials.
Yes.
We met really and got a little bit closer from drama. I mean, through other mutual friends like Damien and all of
Hmm.
them.
Of course.
Bucky,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I barely know Bucky, but because at the time that was like the crew, right?
Yes.
And your name came up a few sessions, like episodes back,
Okay.
where we were talking about how we used to dress with the
Yeah.
baggy
Yeah.
clothes and whatnot. And I said,
Yeah.
Gary was like the person who would walk down the hall in all white with the all white Tommy Hilfiger jacket with
Wow.
the white
Wow.
turtleneck. You were the only one
Yeah.
that could actually
Yeah.
pull off. If do you remember your attire from back then?
Yeah, I sure do. I can't believe you remember that, but that's
Because
embarrassing.
it
But
was
yeah.
like glow
Yeah.
walking. Everyone else is in plaid, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the
Well,
girls were wearing like their boyfriends' oversized
yeah.
button-down shirts, right?
Yeah.
And here
Yeah.
you come walking down the hall in all white.
Yeah. And it's ironic that you said that, but there was a moment in, was it junior? I think it was junior high school. And our vice principal at the time, we would do these assemblies, and he would start everyone with saying, repeat after me. And he says, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do good things. And I took that home and I went to my mom and said, I want to do good things, but I was told I need to look good and feel good. So let's go shopping. But all jokes aside, it when you present yourself in a way that it draws people's attentions, and you can hold a conversation in the room at the same time, it goes a long way. Because obviously, because of the color of our skin, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. You're going to assume that you're probably not as educated. You're probably not as articulate. You're probably not as diverse.
Mhm.
So for me, it was always important to kind of like make sure that I presented myself in a way that I'm going to demand the attention. I'm going to make sure that I can speak up and be heard in a room, and distance myself from probably the other nonsense things that were going on around us, which you kind of alluded to earlier. But yeah, I love fashion. Love fashion.
And it remained consistent throughout the years. Of course, it has elevated quite
Right.
significantly, and I would hope for all of us it has in some way,
Of
right?
course. Of course.
But then, the attention that I got was, for you was that you were just dressed a certain way, and it was just hard not to notice you, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you were in the drama club.
Yeah.
So while it was myself as one of the background, like
Hmm.
the folks that was doing the dancing. The one
Hmm.
time I had the lead, I actually was Berta and Pippin,
Pippin. Yeah. Yeah.
the granny.
Of course.
So, but in working, we managed to form this kindred.
Hmm.
It was really, it was like us, against the rest of Wingate, if you will, because
Yeah.
like it was we were studying our lines. We were going in there clowning around. Miss Rinaldi would pull her hair out when
Yes.
we're
Yes.
clowning around too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
But then when we got it right, she would cry and she would
Yeah.
smile, or she'll just stand with her hands crossed and
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
hand on her chin. And like we made magic happen till, to the point where it becomes opening night
Hmm.
and the entire school, if you will, is in the auditorium
Yes.
and we're shining. And then you're there and you were doing AV.
Yes. AV. You're giving me chills just thinking about it. Yeah. I
How
mean,
did you get into that?
um, I'm trying to remember. I mean, as much as I love arts, I don't like being in front of the camera. I'm a pretty shy person, and a lot of people around me don't believe that because what you see is probably the opposite. It's like a juxtaposition of two things. But I'm pretty shy and pretty laid back and chill. So I think Miss Rinaldi knew that, and also think she knows I'm a big tech dork. If I picked up my webcam right now and showed you this table, my two phones, two iPads, the laptop, I have every toy known, but I've been that way since I was probably 10 years old. In Radio Shack back then, or the Wiz on Flatbush, checking out yeah. Every Saturday or Sunday, I'm looking through, seeing what technology came out. So I think she saw something in me where she thought, let me align him with something like technical. And to me, I was blown away that she even trusted me. She sat me down and said, "This is the lavalier, the microphone is where the batteries go. This is the walkies. When you're gonna mic the person this way." And my heart was racing. I was like, "You're gonna. This is what I see on TV. This is awesome. I'd love to do this." And she trusted us. She trusted the team to be able to mic our actors and actresses, and help put on this wonderful performance, Pippin, and I believe there was another one that we did.
Once on this island.
Yes, yes, yes. But it was a life-changing experience. But I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about what I do now at some point, but that was opening the door for everything.
Right. And when we talked before, you mentioned that there's a lab at Wingate that I had absolutely no idea
Yeah,
existed.
yeah. So one degree that I have directly, it correlates directly to what Miss Rinaldi put me into. And then my other degree, it directly correlates to some other courses that I was taking. So I know Wingate is the shape of a banjo, but the long extension, I forgot what building that
That's the
was.
science section.
Yes, yes. So the science section, but under that was a whole lab of like engineering things. So I believe it was Dr. Goldberg. I could be getting that name totally wrong. But there were engineering classes that were given. It wasn't advertised. Many people didn't know about it. But I learned AutoCAD, automatic computer numerical control, where you're learning robots. You're learning how to program the robots, learning how to build different devices that you can use as tools, programming. I mean, 25, 26 years ago, 14, 15-year-old Black kid in Brooklyn learning that. But I ended up going to college for mechanical engineering and got my degree because of that. And for grad school, I did television and film production. And every job that I've gotten to this day, even if it's not in mechanical engineering, someone says, "Hey, I saw your resume. I saw engineering." All that says to me is that it's pretty cool, and it means you can learn on that level. You're hired.
Wow.
So it all started from Wingate.
Wow. And that's just a testament of how intentional
Hmm.
we were in terms of figuring out what our lives would be. Because for our parents, they had a whole different outlook
Yes,
of our future,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
So, and for most of us, I know for me, I was in a medical program at Wingate, and I did
Hmm.
not want to do that for the rest of my
Yeah,
life. But
yeah.
my grandmother insisted that I would be first a gynecologist, but then you know what? I think I find something better. You're going to be a rad tech, and I'm like, or radiologist, and I
Okay.
said, okay. But then as
Wow.
I went through it, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I like the dissecting. I
Hmm.
enjoy doing all those scientific things. Like right
Yep.
now, I'm actually enrolled in a formulation school, doing organic herbal skincare
Oh,
remedies
wow.
and potions. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I've been working on that. And that part of it is it's cool to me. But for me
Hmm.
to sit and say I'm gonna do science and it's
Yeah,
all science,
yeah, yeah.
that just was not my
Not, yeah,
ideal
yeah, yeah,
job,
yeah,
or career.
yeah.
So, for us, and I know for you, it probably was different too. It's like your parents just want to make sure that you're going to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like where the engineering, started, and I liked it. I even worked at an engineering firm upstate New York after graduating. But when you realize that it's okay to like something, get a degree in it, but I realized I didn't want a job. I wanted a career. I wanted something that's going to make me happy. I'll use some of those life learning lessons while I did my 4 years of undergrad, but I wanted to be in media. I wanted to be in media, television, film. I was able to find a program that would let me in and not start over from scratch, but do a master's program.
Hmm.
And that's what I did. And I've never looked back. It's been what 14 years now since getting that degree, and things have been pretty good. I'm really excited with some of the work I've been able to do over the past couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after high school, you
Mhm.
enrolled in college. Where did you go?
Alfred State College.
Wow.
Yeah, Alfred State
SUNY.
College, SUNY College. Yep. So I'm very proud of that because I was watching. I forget what episode it was. I think it was with Will. Shout out to Will. Awesome, really inspiring segment that he did. I'm glad he's doing so well. But I believe you guys brought up the fact that there's so many of us that are doing well, so many of us that are successful that went to little Wingate, that went to a little SUNY school. So I'm super proud of it. Did 4 years, got my engineering degree in that, but it was a culture shock. As I did AP biology in Wingate. I did some of the high end courses, but getting to college, it was just a different playing field. I was so far behind.
Mm,
Um, I mean, I haven't told my parents this yet, but I failed out my first year. I just
mm,
couldn't keep up. It was so much coming at me. It was a lifestyle change. It was a learning change. But I remember that summer after my freshman year, I said to myself, this is not the way it's going to go. I'm going to write a letter to get back into school, and I did, and I made all the phone calls, and I was allowed to come back, and I just changed everything about how I studied, who I hung around. It was just a lifestyle change that I had to kind of step up and
mhm,
become that adult and realize if I'm going to be successful in life, you have to live a certain way.
mhm.
Um, and I never looked back. I mean, college was an amazing experience, being amongst other cultures and trying skiing and hiking and everything that upstate has to offer. I even just purchased a home upstate New York. I would love to retire up there. I love it. Right on the lake, sunrises, sunsets. It's beautiful. Um, but yeah, best other than Wingate, best years of my life was those years in college.
I'd agree. I didn't go away for college because
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember, I had my daughter in my last year of high school.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't, it wasn't something that I thought was realistic. So I went to
Hmm.
CUNY,
Hmm.
but similar path,
Yeah.
CUNY right through, and then I ended up at Fordham for my
Okay.
graduate degree.
Beautiful school. Love that. Love the campus
Right.
there. Yeah.
Nonetheless, it just shows that the opportunities were there. And, we find that I encourage my daughter to go away for college, and she did, and she's successful. And,
Okay.
my son is graduating in June, and I hope the same for him. But of course,
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what it is that he wants to do. I don't want
Okay.
to impose what I believe would be best for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it has to be together.
Mhm.
But the experience that one would get from going away to college,
Yes.
it's just a life-changing, transformative experience.
Yeah. When there's no one to tell you, hey, get up at this time, or go to sleep at this time because you have an early morning, or do your homework, or clean your room, or where are you getting your food? What are you going to cook? Are you going to make healthy living choices? You have to your mindset changes,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And just the exposure to different people, different cultures, changes how you learn how to communicate and work with others.
Yeah,
And I think it's such a great experience. Luckily, in New York City, it's such a melting pot that you get a little of that anyway.
yeah,
But I highly, highly recommend people to kind of like step out of their zone, go out. For me, even though I stayed in New York, it's Alfred State is 5 hours north of New York
yes,
City, so it still felt like you're out of state, but you get to pay in-state tuition,
yes,
which is massively helpful.
yes, for your
Yeah,
family, I know.
yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So, your experience through Alfred Skate, and I hear you. You seem to have enjoyed your college life, and you figured it out.
Definitely, definitely.
You realized, okay, what's priority, and you
Hmm.
did what you had to do, right?
Yeah.
So, your transition out of college. What happened next for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I ended up actually moving to Florida after graduating from Alfred. When you go on vacation when you're a kid, it's like also beautiful and the beaches and the people. Learned really quickly, not somewhere I want to live. I think
Mm,
it's an amazing place and I think it's beautiful. It's too slow.
mm,
And I think I missed the connection with a lot of my close friends and family, which caused me to move back. But I didn't move back just to start working. I decided to enroll in grad school.
Mm-hmm.
I applied for a minority fellowship for television film production. And the great thing was that at this school, Fredonia State College, even further up north, snows every day. The interesting thing is that applying for a minority fellowship at a school that was primarily white was pretty easy for me to get. So I actually went to grad school for free, other than having to take out a minor loan for living expenses. But I got in there for a program that was going to help teach me television, film production, sound, how it relates to film. And that's where I spent the next 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just were on a mission when you went to Florida.
Yes.
And not many people could actually go somewhere and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do,
Hmm.
and move on. They could have gone so many different routes, if
Yeah.
it if but you managed to stick focus. And I appreciate how you're talking about your willpower, your willingness to want to learn more, to grow and to develop,
Yes.
and make sure that you're on the course
Hmm.
of becoming successful. And then
Hmm.
when I looked at your photos, it's like, man, Gary's living the life. Like, you're on this set in Dubai. You're,
Yeah.
doing all these wonderful things. Tell us a bit about what you do, or how the trajectory of your career path and that led to where you are today.
Yeah, would love to. So I have an interesting, I guess, story to tell, which led me to some of this. So between undergrad and graduate school,
Mhm.
on that drive back from Florida to upstate New York, I started feeling this pain in my chest,
Mm,
and it lasted pretty much for about a week or two. It had happened one time prior to that, a year earlier.
mhm,
Went to a hospital to get it diagnosed one time in an emergency via an ambulance. And they always said, "Oh, it's stress. You're young. You're trying to figure out your life, and don't worry about it. Here's some painkillers." So it wasn't till the fourth visit to a hospital, experiencing the same type of pain, once I enrolled in grad school,
mhm,
that they found a tumor in my chest,
mhm,
unfortunately. And I flew back to New York to do some extra testing. Long story short, it was a cancerous tumor, and I had to withdraw from grad school. I started chemotherapy right away. The same type of therapy that you would get if you had testicular cancer. This was thymoma, though. Thymoma, which is you have a thymus gland that creates certain blood cells to fight infection when you're younger. When you reach to about 23, 24, most people it disintegrates. Your body doesn't use it anymore. And one in a couple million people, it grows into a tumor. And
mhm,
I hit the lotto. I ended up being one of the people that had it grow, which is unfortunate. But as unfortunate as it was, and how difficult of a time frame, 1 to 2 years, that I went through going through chemotherapy, um, 5 or 6 different surgeries. Lost my voice for a time where I couldn't talk. I have a fake vocal cord now that helps me speak. So sometimes it might look like I'm frustrated. I'm having difficulty speaking. It's because it is difficult sometimes. But long story short, I wouldn't change any of that for anything. I think um, another thing that you guys discussed in one of the episodes was that sometimes you need something to help you pause and take a break and recognize how blessed you are, how privileged you are. Um, it forces you into a zone where you count your blessings and you do everything that's good for you. What's going to make me happy? What's going to make me healthy? What's going to bring joy to myself, to my friends, to my family? Um, and it changes how you live your day to day. So, after college, after becoming cancer free, or at least having it in remission, I went back to school, graduated, 4.0 GPA, moved back to New York City, started working for a couple of different TV networks. I worked at Viacom CBS, worked at NBC, did some awesome, awesome projects. Had the luxury of working um, the Thanksgiving Day Parade and Christmas tree lighting every year. Um, I would go to the different Broadway shows and figure out what type of shots that we need to create, whether it's a close up or a wide. a crane shot. I would meet the directors for those Broadway shows, and then report back to the crew and say, we need to create this shot so that when you do a flip here, you're on a close up. When you do a twirl here, you have a wide shot and it zooms in. So I would go to all those Broadway shows in advance to make sure that we were going to create the optimal shots for the live TV broadcast. Sometimes it was working with Mariah Carey and making sure that she had her perfect side shot or filmed. So I did that for many years, left the networks, started my own company, founder of GP Advisory Group, which is more the consulting side of what I do. And then I founded another company called Echelon Marketing and Design, which is the production side of what I do. And I did that I still do it to this day, but I did it hardcore for about 6 or 7 years. And between those two things, I've traveled the world. I've been to Singapore about 13 times in the past 4 years, regularly go to London, regularly go to Scotland, travel throughout all the distilleries doing commercials. Australia, I had the luxury of working with the former Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, on global goals on creating better education for women in schools. Probably the most, I guess, rewarding project was working with Michelle Obama, Charlize Theron on global goals, trying to find out better ways that young ladies can do better in their community, better educated. There's a common issue in countries in Africa like Kenya, Ghana, Nairobi, where boys' educations are prioritized over women's, and also the fact that a lot of them have arranged marriages.
Mm-hmm.
They get married at the age of about 13. When they do that, they drop out of school. So that program that we created with Michelle Obama, Charlize Theron in the Apollo Theater, using technology, going back to the engineering type of stuff,
Right,
we
right.
were able to use technology and video to create a session in the Apollo Theater where these young ladies could ask questions live to Michelle Obama and Charlize
Right.
Theron, saying, "What can I do? I'm trying hard to do X, Y, Z. Do you have any guidance?" It was just a beautiful moment to see that and help bring it to life.
That I tell you, just the timeline and what you talked about with regard to experiencing a level of adversity.
Hmm.
You seem to have went through a rough patch,
I did.
and I wonder, how do you develop the strength? I mean, all these things are remarkable, but at the end of the
Hmm.
day, I'm sitting here literally virtually next to Gary Phillip.
Yeah.
And with all that you've experienced,
Hmm.
I just want to go back to that moment
Hmm.
when you felt, you heard, you got the news, and you felt all of this, but what made you want to push through?
Yeah. I going back to Wingate. A significant amount of people from Wingate showed up for me in the hospital. I could mention a bunch of names, but I know I'm going to leave some out, so I won't specifically mention all of them. But I had a lot of support from friends, from family. My grandmother living in Florida, she moved up and moved in with my parents and my sister and I to help me throughout that entire process. Um, and when you see people who are just changing their lives because they believe in you, they believe that you're here to do something special, and they don't want that cut short. And it was serious. It was a stage 3, borderline 4, that I was going through, and it was. I'm getting really emotional now, but it was tough. But like I said, I know that I was here to do something special. I'm still up in the process of trying to do it, and I wasn't gonna let anything kind of pull me away from that path. It's an ongoing path, and I'm not there yet, but I'm working at it every day.
Gary, do you see why the sun is beaming on you right now?
I tried so hard to avoid the sun. I thought I had to figure it out, but it was meant to
There's
be this way.
nothing to figure out. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
this was ordained. This is
yeah,
exactly what was supposed to happen for you, Gary. I mean,
yeah.
I'm looking at you and you're freaking glowing, okay? And to me, it's like the sun shifted
Yeah.
at perfect timing, as
The
you tell your
timing.
story,
The
okay?
timing, yeah, it came through at 11 a.m. ET on the dot, and I could tell right at 12 it's gonna hit this little divider here. How ironic is that?
I tell you,
Ironic,
oh
yeah.
my goodness. I mean, I'm really misty-eyed
Mhm,
because people see the glitz, and they see the wonderful photos and they see all the things that you want them to see.
mhm.
But it's a matter of going a little deeper than what's at face value.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
oftentimes I would see your images and they're
Mhm,
usually happy, some a little somber,
mhm,
but I would take the time to read when I see your face, although the
mhm,
backdrop is beautiful,
mhm,
it's your face.
mhm.
What story was your face actually telling in that moment?
Yeah.
And it could be based on your location. From when I don't want to read into things, but based
Mhm,
on your locations at time, I
mhm.
can see that you were in a mode of reflection. You
Yes.
were thanking the heavens for giving you the opportunity to stand at that very point, whether it's high in the mountaintop
Mhm.
or base at the water.
Yeah.
It seems as if your face was just showing, was beaming gratitude.
Yes. Yes. I do know that I am fortunate. And listen, yes, I'm telling you the story of what I went through. I think everyone has their own struggle. I think everyone has their own pain. Some of it is visible. I have a massive scar on the shape on my chest, the shape of a cross. Funny joke. My doctor said, "Oh, you should put a tattoo around it of a cross." I went and did it and surprised them and came back. But I have scars that are visible. Some people it's not visible. It could be mental health and
Mhm,
others. So I just try to remind everyone that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I think you have to have vision of getting there, and to work at it. It doesn't happen overnight, and sometimes you may take another step backwards, but sometimes you need to do that to be able to move forward. And I am beyond blessed. And these past 2 years has been another pause moment for me.
mhm.
I was literally traveling every other week somewhere in the world, trying to make it back to see my beautiful daughter's soccer games and be at her parent teacher meetings. But
Mhm.
I don't even know I paid for my apartment at the time. I think it was just to change clothes for a couple of years. Um, but I love what I do. I love the life. I love my family. My daughter was a blessing. She was born not too long after I had my chemotherapy and surgery and so forth. And I mean, when first time seeing her, and I thought it was going to be a boy, but of course, it's a beautiful little girl. And every time I see her, she also pushes me to do better,
Mhm.
to live for her, to create an environment where she can thrive, to give her the same experiences I had as a child through my parents. So a lot of times when I'm working with clients and they want me to go somewhere, I'm like, guess what? I got a travel buddy, and she has to come along with me. And I bring her, and she's been to London multiple times. She's been to Scotland multiple times, Dublin. She's coming to Australia probably at the end of this year with me. But she's my travel buddy. I teach her about currencies when we're going to different places. She
Yes.
picks all the restaurants. She has to read the reviews. She has to order maybe in a different language. She whoever she dates when she's older, I feel bad for them
Oh,
because
yes.
her standards are going to be up here. But listen, it's not just my daughter; it's my niece as well. I'm like a father figure to her.
Yeah.
They are my best friends, and we listen. We have a good time.
I
We
I
live
I I
life.
I literally see it, I don't see it. It's interesting. I saw you one time.
Mhm,
I don't know if it was a passion project, but you were doing some filming in Prospect Park.
mhm.
I was coming. I think I went to take my youngest skating,
Okay.
and you were doing. It was like a mini production. I was like, "Hey, Gary," you like, "Hey."
Did, I don't even remember that. Holy wow! How
Um,
long ago was that?
it was a few years ago.
Okay, it was probably
It was,
probably was a passion project if it
but you
was.
were really
Yeah,
focused. I
yeah,
have to tell you, because like when I shot it, I was like, "Hey, that's Gary," and I
yeah,
said, "Hey, Gary," and you're like in the camera. You had this. It was like big kind of camera thing. It was like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
massive.
yeah.
Um, and you were with, I believe, now was your significant other, because I recognized the face.
I know
Uh,
the project. Yes, that was a passion project. We were doing some comedy sketches that we were putting into a comedy festival, which did win a couple of different awards.
Oh, look at that.
But yeah, yeah, I remember now. Holy crap! It's all coming together now.
Yes. So
But
I
yes,
said, my daughter says, "Do you know him?" I said, "Yeah, we went to high school together." She was like,
yeah.
"Is there anyone you didn't go to high school with?"
Listen, Wingate was probably as big as my college. Wingate was a big
Massive,
school with a
okay?
lot of people. Yeah, that was Alicia. Yes, yes. And she travels often with us as well. And we go back and forth. If she's going somewhere for work, she's also in media, works now for Viacom, just coincidence. We I travel with her, and then she covers the expenses through work, which and then vice versa. If she can travel with me, and we we plan it out very well. I think so. My daughter will be 16 this summer. I think this will be the first time I actually have to pay for a vacation because we try to tackle it on or tap it onto the end or beginning of any trip just to be more cost effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. I went like when I saw you that time because
Mhm.
I don't know, I always thought that you lived in California or something.
I
Uh,
like I said, don't know why I paid for a place in Brooklyn. Pointless. I was probably in California more than I was in Brooklyn.
right.
Yeah.
So it's like every time, and from then it's like, okay, I want to make a point to make sure that I stay in touch, because even if
Hmm.
it's just a drop of a line of heart on your
Hmm.
comments, or just a comment or whatever,
Yeah.
it's just making sure that we remain in touch in some form or fashion, because clearly you've gone through life, you've gone through the challenges that one I don't think could ever endure
Hmm.
for any particular time. I mean, you're wearing your scars, and yet you're sitting here with me, as confident, and feeling really good about where life has taken you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I can say that there's so much happening in the world with regards to mental illness,
Hmm.
and people not feeling comfortable or complete or satisfied
Yeah.
with their lives, and here you are really just seeing that you have your daughter,
Hmm.
you have your spouse, you have the people in your friends from Wingate who
Yeah.
managed to follow you throughout the years, your
Yeah.
family,
Hmm.
keeping you grounded.
Hmm.
That's so important to really learn about you.
It is, and sometimes you forget. Sometimes you forget. There's times where I'm sitting there, I'm like, what's next? Like I need to take over the world. Like what can I
Mm,
do? Whether it's more work, more starting a new company, more money, more whatever it is.
mhm.
And sometimes you have to just think about like what got you to this point. What did you go through to get there? And appreciate what you have in that moment. And it's okay to not be content and just live, but you should be happy in the moment. Enjoy the process.
Right,
And I think that's something that I've had to like learn, because there's always going to be something else that you want to do, something else you want to achieve. There's also going to be the next crisis in your life. That's life.
right,
But living in the moment and enjoying the process is the biggest thing that I've had to teach myself, and I'm still trying to learn that because life is beautiful. Life is amazing, especially having this beautiful sun in my face. I feel like I'm on the beach right now, but it's snowing outside. I'm looking through the window. It's snowing right
you wish it were
now.
sand.
I wish. I wish. I wish. Soon. Soon.
And it's seizing the day. And it's funny because I didn't know what to call this session, and I said,
Hmm.
what, it's seize the day, and here you are talking about living in the moment.
Hmm.
That is so important,
Yes.
and I just want to find out from you
Hmm.
exactly, how do you manage aside, I hear you with the family, but when is there a time, because you're into really thinking ahead, you're
Yeah.
into forecasting what imagery should look like, or what would be
Yes.
most appealing.
Yes.
Has there ever been a time when you felt that you were just not able to deliver or have that insight? You were stuck, or feeling that, my gosh, what am I doing here? Have you ever questioned yourself? That was like compounded, but
Yeah. 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 Well, do you mean in a specific job or in
or
life
in
in
life in
general?
general, or in just
Yeah.
creating magic.
Yeah. Another funny story, if we have time.
We have time.
I I categorize myself as a producer, but that encompasses a lot of different things. That means you're in charge of creating budgets and managing P&Ls, profits and losses, and hiring people. And right now, I do a lot of recruitment for hiring people globally, people who understand technology and video, and building out other companies. So I do a lot of consulting in that. But prior to all that, yeah, you have to start out pretty, small scale. You're doing editing, you're on camera, like you saw me in the park that day. But someone tried to hire me one day as an assistant camera person. That sounds pretty simple. You just assist the camera person, the camera operator. But no, this person actually builds the high-end camera, the 4-foot massive lenses that cost $40,000. And for this project, we were tasked with mounting it to a Mustang convertible and driving it through Manhattan. So I was like, you know what? I'll try to do this. I'll make a couple of $100 for the day. This is many years ago, back when you think you could do anything. And I didn't actually appreciate different skill sets for what they were, and it was a learning lesson for me. So I tried to jump in that role. I showed up on set. They said, "Here's the gear. Build it. Let's go. We need to be in Midtown by 2 p.m." So I sat there, and I mean, there's rods and there's cables and there's different TV mounts that you have to plug in, and you have to strap it into the back seat, make sure it's secured, make sure it meets regulations. My mind is blown. I'm so confused, scared. I'm like crap in my pants. I didn't know what to do. There was literally a moment where I said, all right, I see the train station right there. I could just run. Like, how much is this going to hurt my career if I just run? And I think I even called someone. I think I called Alicia, and I told her, I said, I don't know what to do. Like, my heart is racing. I've never been in a situation where I would quit. And I literally took one step to that station to run. And I said, no, let's just deal with this. This is a lesson for me to respect people's craft, respect what they do, respect the different positions. It made me a better person. I understood how to hire people in the future in their specific roles and try to get them to achieve their goals based on what they want to do. Because I didn't want to do that. I just took it because I was like, hey, I'll make some money. But that's probably like one of the interesting moments in my career where you like it's something you see on TV where you see like the road runner and the feet start moving. That's why I felt like I was going to do at that moment. But I toughed it out, and the client understood, and I was straight up with them and expressed this is not my role, but I'm happy to help in that day in any moment that you need. And they called in some extra people, and to be honest with you, they still paid me. I got that check in the mail in a couple of weeks. I have no idea. I wanted to take it back to them and say, no, thank you. I don't deserve this.
Yes.
But no, I took the money. I cashed it.
Of course. Of course.
But yeah,
And
that
invested in,
was,
I'm sure, and other things that, contributed to your growth and development. So,
yes. The
and that's
investments
perhaps
are big right
that's
now.
perhaps what they wanted for you as well. Sometimes
Maybe.
when you question why people would still go ahead and compensate, oftentimes it's integrity, but then
Yes.
it's also because they probably saw something in you and
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see what you would do with that investment. And
Mm-hmm.
clearly you did what was necessary, not only intellectually and having you know um, some sort of wisdom about how you would move forward in hiring people,
Mm-hmm.
but essentially you figured out how to develop in the process and make sure that you don't make that
Yes.
same mistake again, right?
Yes. It was all meant to happen. It was all designed.
Exactly, exactly. So what's next for you, Gary? you
Mm-hmm.
know what would you tell folks out there who you know don't what happened?
Oh, I don't know. I lost you for a second.
What happened? It just went rolling, boy. I tell you, technology just was
Yeah,
rolling and
I
rolling. You disappeared.
I hit refresh and I'm back.
Oh, yes. So what
Yeah.
would you tell folks in terms of the next step? My apologies to everyone. I don't know what happened, but
No.
we're here.
Um, uh, Great question. I think about that regularly, and especially going back to the pandemic. And um, like I said, I made some investments during that time frame where I had time to actually look for look for a home. I had time to think about some goals and what I wanted to achieve. I had time to reflect on, the fact that, my daughter and my niece, they're going to college soon. So I've been taking them to visit different colleges throughout, primarily throughout New York right now because we didn't want to travel too far throughout the pandemic. But taking them to Cornell University to do tours, taking them to RIT, taking them to, you know, um, every and anything that I could find within, say a 200-mile radius. So that's big for me. It's thinking about their future, what they want, to set them up for success. And in addition to that, I've been on this mission and this goal to learn about our African American culture. That's partially why I'm on the road right now. I had a meeting in Texas, but we decided to do a road trip back to New York. So we started in Dallas, went to Memphis, Tennessee, went to the MLK, the unfortunate site of where Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated, the Lorraine Motel, which is now a museum. I encourage everyone to go check it out. It is eerie, but it's something that we all need to learn and understand what took place that day. And the fact that it didn't happen that long ago. It's one generation away. I saw an interesting meme the other day. If he was alive today, I think he would be 93 or 94. Please excuse me if I'm off by a year, but it's younger than Betty White. Martin Luther King could be alive. Excuse me, Dr. Martin Luther King could be alive today. But moving on from Memphis, Tennessee, I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio right now, which is where the Underground Railroad Museum is. And the fact that they put it here is because I believe the Ohio River separates where the northern free states are from the rest of the states who wanted to keep the Confederacy going and so forth. So I'm checking out that museum in about an hour. That's where I'm going to next.
Oh,
And then,
cool.
yeah. And then from there, I'm heading back up to upstate New York, Finger Lakes area, where the Harriet Tubman Museum is, which I go to regularly. Frederick Douglass' first home in Rochester, the Underground Railroad in Seneca Falls, and also the women's suffrage movement originated in Seneca Falls.
Yes,
The
yes,
Women's
yes,
Museum is there. Michelle Obama's going to be inaugurated into the Hall of Fame there in
yes.
September, which
Mhm.
I'll be there for that. So I'm just trying to take it all in and understand our culture and our background. And I also purchased a property in Seneca Falls, right down the street from that museum.
Mhm.
And it's being restored so that anyone who's interested in learning about some of that culture can stay there for free. They just need to kind of take a stamp and check all the places that they've been to and write something about it. We're still trying to finalize what that's going to look like, but we're working on that as we speak. So that's what's next.
Wonderful. Uh, Darnice says she would love to see the itinerary for that spot that you're going to have for folks.
Absolutely, absolutely. If there's
I
somewhere I could
think that's
post it, yeah,
remarkable.
yeah, yeah.
How often do you find that
Mhm.
where, people would give their homes? And in the Caribbean, that seems to be quite frequent. They'll
Yeah,
have like a woman, she's a good cook, and she'll tell the tourists, come and have dinner with me in my living room,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Same
yeah.
kind of concept where you're trying to make sure that you help people to understand their culture, their heritage, and nationality. And if not, understanding other cultures and nationalities.
Absolutely. Very much
And
so.
that's the disconnect that we have. And it's interesting because Will and I talked about that in our episode about not making the correlation between Afro-Caribbean and African American,
American, yeah, yeah.
when we're more or less
Yeah,
melanated in the same way and trying to
absolutely.
achieve and accomplish,
Hmm.
similar things.
Hmm. Hmm.
My goodness, Gary, this was just amazing.
It was. Thank you so much. And listen, I think what you're doing is so important. I remember when we spoke on the phone and I said to you, thank you. I thanked you like 1,000 times because I was in between meetings. And once again, going back to this, the word of the day is pause, because I think it's so important for us to do that. But it made me just reflect and had me slow down a little bit and think about our past, think about how important it was, important for us to understand that and what it meant for us to get here today. And I think what you're doing with all the different programs is phenomenal. If there's any way that I can help in the future, please, I'd love to be a part of it. I'd love to help in any way. And I think this is just the start. This is the start for something beautiful. And congratulations to you. And I think what you're doing is phenomenal.
Thank you so much, Gary. I'm trying my best, because I get, people would ask me, I wonder how so and so is doing. And
Hmm.
I didn't do this with that in mind. I did
Hmm.
this because it was in the middle of the pandemic and I
Yes.
wanted to connect with folks in some sort of way.
Hmm.
That wouldn't be just to pick up the phone because I'm not bad at that. I'm bad at picking
Hmm.
up the phone and calling folks, right?
Hmm.
So I figured if I were to do this, would people hop on? And I really don't care how many people come on. I just want
Yeah.
to spread the word. And so far, it's been just so amazing. It
Yeah.
started off with myself and Darnice. And then I invited other people in, but then I realized my niche are my colleagues from Wingate.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And listen, this is therapy. If no one joined, just having these conversations
Yes,
is
yes,
therapy. So thank
yes.
you for doing this.
It has been. Gary, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to
My
be on
pleasure.
Goal Intentions.
My
We
pleasure.
seize the day,
Yes, we sure
and the
did.
sun just is gleaming on your face, going straight down to your chest on that cross because it's telling
Yes,
you.
yes. I think I'm getting a tan right now, actually.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, you come a few hues that
Yeah, yeah.
brown. Yeah, that's okay.
All good. Embrace it.
You
It's all
you can
good.
fool people and say, "I just came from Hawaii."
Yeah. Hawaii is quite lovely. That'll be another vacation soon. I love it there.
To everyone who's out there, we're getting much love in the chat. Thank you, Amanda, for joining. Darnice, Janelle,
Tremendous.
Zola, thank you so much. Linda, I appreciate you. Happy birthday, Linda.
Happy birthday.
Reese, Sharice is on here. Oh my gosh. Natasha is on here.
Oh, wow, she's
Oh,
on. Oh,
we have quite a few people on here. Sonarta, we have quite a few people on
that's
here
awesome.
who seem to really appreciate you being here. Thank you again. And for everyone out there, remember, seize the day. And when
Yes.
necessary, take time to pause, reflect, release any negative energy that might be in you, and try to find your space so that we can all conquer this world together.
Super important.
Everyone, thanks for joining Goal Intentions. Have a purpose filled weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being. Bye.
Thanks.